Real talk, raw faith, stay unfiltered. Welcome back to Echoes Unfiltered. I'm your host, Sam Stratton. Today I got a buddy of mine with me that we served together in the same unit in Dodgeville, Wisconsin. Now, we didn't get to go on the same deployment, however, Joe did deploy. So he's going to tell us a little bit about that today. I've been excited to have this conversation. So with that, Joe, welcome to the program. I'm so glad you could come on. Why don't you tell the viewers a little bit about you and why you joined the military?
Yeah, good to see you, brother. Of course, one of my favorite leaders that I had, obviously, and then you left us. You left me.
I did. I went and got married.
Hey, nothing wrong with that. So I'm originally from Iowa. I joined the military pretty much kind of for, I would say, kind of the same reasons a lot of people do. Obviously 9/11 had a big impact on me when that happened. At that time, I was kind of running around the country in rock bands being like irresponsible while, guys like you and other guys, served and went over to Iraq and things like that. And that was just kind of something where you guys were defending my freedom. I was allowed to do that because of the freedom that was being defended. And that was kind of my way of giving back. And then obviously I had a lot of family that were in the military. So that was a big pressure as well.
So it was a family thing.
Yeah, big time.
Were they all Army?
A little bit of everything. Navy, Army, Air Force, Marine Corps. I don't think any Coast Guard that I know of, but mainly Army for the most part, yeah.
And so what year did you join?
It would be 2008, January.
So January 08, you decided to join, and how old were you then?
Oh, man, I think I was 23, maybe 24.
You're probably the old man in basic, weren't you?
I was. It was humbling to get through MEPS and then show up there, and I'm like, man, all these children around me. But I mean, even being 23, you feel like, oh man, I'm dad. And then some of the other guys that were my age as well kind of looked a little bit more older too. And I'm like, man, we're like the dads of the group.
I was 19 when I went to basic, and I felt old. I was one of the old guys.
Yeah. Yep.
All these guys fresh out, either doing split op or whatever. Anyway.
Yep.
So you joined in 2008 as a combat engineer.
Correct.
You got to the unit in Dodgeville, and why don't you take me from there?
Yeah. So get to the unit in Dodgeville. Obviously, when you got a basic and AIT and you graduate, you're all exciting, and then the new reverse comes, and you show up like, all right, I got to do this. I got to fit in. I got to find a way to earn my way, earn my rank. I think the first person I meet is Sergeant Ranky. Very, very intimidating guy right away. I think it was him and Sergeant Tranberg. And I'm like,
good.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, cool, look at these big gigantors, And the nice thing, though, is like joining the unit was very, very cool. I think it was a little bit more easy for me just because, I had guys like Manis and Cody Dugan, Freed Line, and those guys, we all went to basic training together.
Oh, okay.
And then oddly enough, we all go to the same, Lear, we all went to basic, then we all go to the same unit. So I think that made it a lot easier than probably most people. You're kind of by yourself, you don't know nobody, and you're like, man, now we're getting into that, I'm going to be the guy,
And then you show up at your unit and you got to do it all over again because you don't know anybody again.
You don't know anybody, so you're starting all over again. It's all about earning respect and earning your way and then doing the right thing and just proving that you're a good soldier right away. And
amen.
Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, it was very cool. For me, it was very rewarding too, to get through everything, get to the unit and be like, man, this is what I just busted my hump for 3 months. This is all that I went through. Now I'm here. Now I get to do this. And the first thing in my mind was, when are we deploying? Come on. Like, let's
And that was going to be my next question. How long were you with the Dodgeville unit before you deployed?
So I was with Dodgeville from 08 to 16. I think we were 3 years in. I'm pretty sure I was three or maybe 4, because there was talks that we were basically to get ready to go to Iraq. And then I think that fell through. And that might have been when you guys were still there before you got out. Because I know there was talks about us going to Iraq. Okay. And then it didn't happen. And then the following year it was, all right, nope, we're mobilizing to go to Afghanistan.
So you went to Afghanistan, and I've talked to a lot of the guys that were there on that deployment, the differences in route clearance in each of those deployments.
Yeah.
from Iraq to Afghanistan, and just how different the same job can be in two places that are so close together.
Yeah, completely. I would say the biggest thing that I noticed right away that I was really concerned about going was hearing from, guys like Wing and Ranky and Tramberg about what you guys dealt with, EFPs and things like that. That wasn't a thing in Afghanistan. It was a lot of HME, homemade explosive stuff, daisy chain HME. There really wasn't a lot of like crazy stuff. I mean, they were very basic. It's like, we're going to deep bury something in this culvert and we're going to try to get you. That's it.
Yeah.
They didn't really do anything too crazy, where I feel like the Iraqis started to kind of do some wizardry.
And you brought up EFPs, and that still makes the hair in the back of my neck stand up. The
Terrifying.
EFPs were the one type of IED that just terrified me because they hit you, you're done. I mean,
You're done. Yeah.
It's all over but the crying. When that goes off, just say hello, Jesus, because that's the next thing.
Literally. And that was a big thing that was in the back of my head when you're going through mobilization, and and then you get there and they're telling you all the different kinds of ordnance that you could see while you're here. And that's one thing that was not on the chart was EFPs. And I remember asking about that, like, where's EFPs? Oh, we don't really see that typically here. It's just a lot of HME. That's it. And I'm like,
I don't know if this is true, but at the time they were saying the EFPs, we were in a Sunni area, and EFPs were more of a Shiite thing. And so those were more coming from Iran. Now you got closer to where the Shiite areas were, and those were like the good EFP. Well, the bad, but the good for them.
Yeah.
EFPs, they were some quality material.
Yeah.
Anyway, enough about those stupid things. Ugh.
Oh man, I'm telling you, I was happy to not see it on the chart, but it's always still in the back of your mind. You're always still sitting there going, this might be this might be the deployment. We might be the guys that come here, and one of those guys gets here and shows somebody how to start making them, and they start putting them in mud walls when we're going through these tight, choke points, and then I'm up there in a gunner, and one goes off, and I'm like you said, hi Jesus, how are you?
Yes, and that's the thing too. And I don't know that a lot of people that listen to this program, unless you're in the military, I don't know if you'd understand this, but they can hide the IEDs so well. When we're doing route clearance, we're not technically looking for IEDs. We're looking for indicators because you're not normally going to see the IED itself.
No. I think for the most part, anything that we ever found, it was indicators. You drive 2 miles an hour down the road, and every single day you're looking at the same thing. And it truly is remarkable that every day you go down the same routes, Route Hyena, Highway 1, whatever, and you would see the smallest rock turned, any type of discoloration in the dirt, and you're like, all right, somebody move something here. I'll stop.
Yeah.
You're looking for a faint little shimmer of angel wire, whatever it could be. And
aiming points.
It's really, really wild. Like the things that you catch up on. And it's weird when you get back too, how you're always staring at certain things for the first year that you're
I still
home.
do. It's been almost 20 years. I still do it.
Yep. Like pothole, I'm not going near that.
Yeah, no, thank you. No, thank you. How long were you guys in Afghanistan before you found your first IED?
So we were there for about 2 weeks. And then it was 2 or 3 weeks before we went out the wire because we had to do some training, do some crows training, other things like that. Go through our first rocket attack.
Those are always fun.
That was a really, really bad one. I literally can remember that because it was what happened when that happened was horrifying. And I actually thought a lot of our guys in the second platoon got killed when that happened, and luckily they didn't. It was really, really bad. I just remember going through, you're going through it. You're like, I'm here now. And we're standing outside of the connexes. And I was standing there with Specialist Perkins at the time. And Dugan and all the guys had just went to the chow hall. And we're in the middle of Kandahar. It's lit up like a Christmas tree, which always blew my mind. I mean, yeah. I'm sure you guys dealt with that in Iraq too, where you're like, why are we so lit up for the enemy to see us? It's really, really wild. And I just remember that was my first sense of this is real. I could literally die. And I just remember hearing typically what they would do. So you got CAF and then you got Highway 1, and there's 2 mountains that are parallel on the right and left of Highway 1. And what they would like to do, and we were told this when we first got there, Every night, shoot a couple rockets off towards Calf because it's lit up like a city, and they could see everything. Obviously, they probably have, proxies
Why not take a couple
or
pot shots
interior
type of thing?
guys. Yeah, they would just pop shot them. Well, this
Okay.
typical night, they launched, I think, if I remember correctly, it was 4 or 5 total rockets, which they normally never do that. And
Mm.
they were very, very precise where they landed, which was kind of wild. One hit the USO. The other one hit the other side of the USO, a generator. The other one hit the center of a roundabout. And then the other two hit the chow hall where everybody was at.
Oh, that's where Dilly was telling me about. He was in the chow
Yes.
hall and got hit with his LT,
Yeah.
wasn't he?
Yeah. Yeah. We were all going there. Just me and Perkins hadn't made it to start going there yet. And
Okay.
they had just sat down. I remember hearing them go over, and the siren started going off, and we just kind of like froze for a second, and we watched them go over our head. And then you hear the impacts, and the first thing you just start hearing is people screaming medic. And obviously you're instantly being, who we are, you run towards people that need help. So we started running over there. And the first person that I see coming out of the door is Cody Dugan. And he just has this blank look on his face, big knot on his head. And I'm just like, man, where is everybody? What's going on? Because there's still smoke. You could smell everything. People are screaming. And I went in the door, and I can't remember who followed him out, but it was a bunch more of our guys. So by that time, Sergeant Ranky and I'm trying to remember who else. There was somebody else that went in there with us, and they had CLS bags, and I had mine with Perkins.
CLS being combat lifesaver bags.
Yep. As soon as we walked through the door, there's a girl sitting in a chair, and she's bleeding everywhere. There's just blood, and there's smoke. And when you look to the left where the impacts went through, the way they had these roofs, they were triple layered. So when the round would impact, it would basically make it detonate, and then it's not supposed to get through the other layers. Well, the second round went all the way through, and it detonated when it hit the concrete underneath the table where everybody was sitting. And I remember being side by side with Sergeant Ranky, and there was a soldier at the table, and he was gone. He was face first down on the table, and we knew right away just because of the graphicness of how bad it was. And then to the left, there was more wounded, and me and Ranky started working on a Air Force. I can't remember his rank, but he was very, very high up, and he had shrapnel wounds through his neck, out the side of his head, and then massive abdominal wounds. So he had really, really bad injuries to his abdominal, to where it was like things were coming out. And I just remember Ranky and myself being like, all right, start doing what we need to do. And I just remember putting pressure and trying to hold everything in. And that was such a surreal moment to go through something like that. Cause you see it on YouTube, you see videos of it, you hear from other buddies that have deployed, and it doesn't seem like it's real until you're in that moment. And you're like, these are people that have died or are going to die. And there's nothing you can do about it. This is war. This is combat.
Yeah.
Like, this is what happens. We did whatever we could to help people. I think that gentleman ended up getting flown to Germany, and then we heard a couple of days later that he actually did pass away from his injuries. But that moment was just absolutely crazy, because it scared the shit out of me, to be honest with you. Because I was like, I almost lost a bunch of my brothers just like that. And we haven't even been here for more than 14 days.
Yeah.
And I was like, is this really what this is going to be like for the next year that I have to be here? We're not even on patrol. We're not looking for bombs yet. We're
supposed to be able to exhale right now.
Yeah. I'm like, we're literally uncapped. And to be honest, the only time I ever felt uncomfortable being over there was whenever we were at CAF. Being on the routes, it is what it is. But when you're there, you're just a sitting duck. And I never liked that.
Well, any bigger bases, they're gonna have stuff zeroed in on them.
Oh, and it just, like I said, it just blew my mind how lit that place was all the time. And it's like, you're asking for something like this to happen, because there's internal people that work in there that are giving out information like, hey, there's Bob. Come on, like, we all know that's what's going on.
If they have something dialed in like a chow hall, of course they're gonna hit that when it's chow time. And they want to inflict mass casualties. I don't know if you guys had to deal with this at all, but you talking about these mortars coming in and stuff like that. Well, we used to get mortar fire, and you know how quickly our guys can read that and return fire from where it came from.
Yeah.
So one of the tricks that they were using when I was in Iraq was they would have like a gallon of water and it'd poke a hole in it. And as the water drained out, when it finally got light enough, it went and dropped it and whoo, gone.
Oh.
So, and by the time all that enough water ran out of the jug, they were miles away.
Yep. So honestly,
ingenious.
That's exactly what they were doing in Afghanistan. And that's why QRF always, by the time they would get there, there's nobody there. They were fuse timers, probably crafty stuff like that. They were smart. I mean, they knew where things were, and they knew
they've been fighting their whole life.
They've been there forever, and they know how we operate. They're not dumb. I mean, they watch. They know from obviously internal sources that are inside CAF are probably telling them, between 1,800 and 2,100, this is when they come to the chow halls. Aim here,
Yeah.
And by the time QRF even gets halfway, they're, like you said, they're long gone, and they know. Get back to what you actually asked me. I think it was about a week after that we finally got to go out of the wire and went on our first mission. And then it honestly, if I remember correctly, it took a while before we found anything. I think we found some mortar tails that, we thought were IED, maybe something.
Yeah.
But there was a while that it was very, I wouldn't say boring, but it was just kind of like you just drove up and down these roads and nothing really ever happened. And then all of a sudden you started finding stuff,
Yeah. Did you guys have to deal with small arms fire at all? Was that a big thing or?
No, I don't remember ever getting contact at all. People typically didn't screw with us. I mean, when we would go through, it was typically like, we ain't messing with these guys, and then obviously on that deployment too, we were embedded with we worked a lot with the Canadians. So the majority of our FOBs were all Canadians, FOBs. And they were awesome. Like, they hated everybody in the Army except for American Army route clearance. Dude, and they were vocal about it. Third Striker, we don't like you guys. 10th Mountain, we hate those guys. Like, if you weren't ODA
I have my own run-ins with 10th Mountain.
Yeah. So that's kind of who we took over for. And they kind of brought us up to speed, like, this is how things are. And then they were out. And I think that was around the time the 101st bounced out too. And then I think maybe after that's when the 3rd Striker Battalion came in and started doing their thing. And that always freaked me out watching those guys drive around with those flat bottoms. And I'm like,
well, flat bottoms and a lot of stuff touching the ground when you're driving.
Yeah. I'm like, boy, if you guys hit an IED, that's not going to end well.
I felt the same way when I saw them. Once in a while, I'll be like, I would not want to be in one of those right now. That's not good. That's no bueno.
No, not at all.
Okay, so you had a ton of action when you got there before you even were able to leave the wire.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
You go through all the training and you do all the things that you do to get yourself ready, but it's not reality till you're there. So I remember, I could feel it right now, and I still remember the first time landing after leaving Kazakhstan and landing there and walking up that plane and feeling that heat and that smell and looking around and going, oh, I'm here. This is real now. Even if I wanted to see and be like, I want to go home. Nope, you're here, bro. This is what you signed up for. So let's go.
So you were talking about the Canadians. Now, everybody else that I've been talking to that was there tells me about the difference in the Canadian food. They said when the French Canadians got there, the food was awesome.
True. That is 100%. And so if I remember, there was I think it was Zangabad was one of the FOBs, and that was one of the main ones that we would always go to. It was like Spur and Guard, Zangabad, off of Route Hyena. And we always went there. Those guys loved us. They had a cook that would wake up at like 3 or 4 in the morning and cook us breakfast to make sure that we had food before we would leave the wire every day.
Wow.
If you were infantry, American, it doesn't matter what MO said, it ain't happening. But for us route clearance guys, they did it for. And
I'm sure they appreciated what you were doing.
And that's the thing, is a lot of these routes that we were clearing for the Canadians, the whole mission was to basically clear these routes to be safe for the locals to be able to travel around on. And then once they got to a point to where we knew that they were safe, the Canadians were working with contractors to come in behind us, and they were paving the roads. So
Okay.
it was very detrimental to make sure that the Canadians were clearing out the bad element with the ODA teams and stuff like that. And then we were making sure that, okay, there's no more IEDs. You guys can come in behind. And that's one thing too that we noticed right away that the Taliban would not do. Sometimes they would, but mainly they would not. Once the roads were paved, they knew that they had to hold a balance with the locals. If we blow up this paved road, we're going to catch from the locals.
Yeah.
You know, like they're not going to work with us because now we're doing whatever. So typically, like versus what I saw kind of in Iraq, they didn't blow up. Like once there was a paved road, they left it alone. They didn't blow it up typically. They just left it alone.
Convenient.
So yeah, convenient for us. I don't know for 100% if that's truthful. I mean, just from what we saw when we were there, they might have blown it up after we left. I don't really know. But as they were doing things and they were paving, typically they would leave those routes in those areas alone. And I know the biggest thing was a lot of these routes that we were there, they were considered red or black, which means you don't go on them or you'll die. And by the end of the deployment, I should say the end of that iteration of the deployment before I had some stuff happen later, and then they moved different fobs. We had turned the majority of all those routes completely green, and they were safe. So, and we
Good on
cleared
you
all.
guys.
Yeah, and that I know for a lot of us that felt really good, you know, especially for some of the guys like who you served with, like Ranky and all those Dilly, you know, and all those guys. Like honestly, I think it goes down to having guys like that with experience that have been there, you know, Ranky, Wing, Dilly, all those guys. You know, they like to have that there with you versus us new guys showing up and not knowing nothing about route clearance. That made all the difference. You know, those guys, they've seen everything you can see already. They've been there. They've done that.
Saw a lot. That's for sure.
So it was good. It was very, very cool to hear consistently from our higher echelon of leadership that like you guys are absolutely murdering it. I mean, even from like some of the active duty engineer companies were like, who's this reserve unit, dude? They're just murdering it out here. Like, we know
that group of guys. A lot of that group of guys, because it was the same thing with us. There was people that were like, "You guys are reservists." I'm like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we do our job. We do it well. We go home. We want to live too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean that's the whole point, is to get home, you know, safely.
Yeah, so we're gonna do everything to the best of our abilities. Like Joe said before, when you're driving down the roads that you see every day, you notice if a rock is turned that wasn't turned yesterday. So you're just really getting to know your AOs. It's really good. That's not the word I'm looking for.
It's literally the difference between living or dying, honestly.
Could be.
So,
Hey, real quick, if you're enjoying these stories from Iraq, you can find some of them in my book, Echoes from the Sandbox, now available on Amazon. It's about our deployment to Ramadi during some of the worst fighting of the war, the missions we ran, the men I served with, and the things that stick with you long after you come home. All right, let's get back to the conversation. I know when I came back home after Ramadi, I had a completely new respect for what we have in the United States.
Big time. Yeah.
And I'm sure you probably had the same experience.
Yeah, I still do. I mean, there's still days that I drive down the roads and I see these knuckleheads, the way people drive and act, and I'm like, man, I can't imagine like what it would be like for some of these people if they experience a little bit of that fear. They would maybe change their tune a little bit, and also, you know, be like, man, we have it really good here in this country versus other countries. I mean,
and
big time.
And I didn't realize how good until I was in other countries.
Yeah,
makes you thankful. That's for sure.
Yep, love America.
Amen.
There was a huge mission that we did that was absolutely insane. And it sucked for us in second platoon. We'll just say that. I could talk a little bit about that. And I know some of the guys, when they watch this, they'll laugh about it because they'll go, yeah, it was stupid.
Okay, what you got?
So there was a huge joint mission that was between ourselves, Third Striker. There were some airborne units, ODA units, I think SEAL teams, a bunch of Air Force EOD teams, and they ended up using our entire company, all 3 platoons for this. And it was like I think it was a 3 or 4 day mission, and it was massive. We were up by the Horn of Panjwai, basically, where nobody had ever gone. They've never pushed up that far ever and cleared those routes to push into this territory. And obviously our mission is to clear these routes. And every indication was, all right, guys, the months leading up to this, I know it's been quiet. You guys haven't been hardly been shot at. Like, you found some stuff here and there, but this is the real deal. Like, this is when it's going to get real. Like, this is serious. Like, this is Taliban country. Nobody's allowed to go up there. So it's going to go off. We ended up doing all of our stuff, doing all our briefings. We're at this Canadian FOB. The night before, there's some guys on some motorbikes that are cruising around shooting at the base, bombs going off. So, like, they knew something was up. And we're just, you're getting those tinglies like, this is it, baby. This is finally, like, this is what I'm here for.
This is what we've been waiting for.
Yeah. So you go out, and for 4 days, we're doing our thing, going up these routes. Second platoon, not a thing. Nothing.
Really?
Nothing. Nobody, like hardly anybody around, and all we could hear for 3 or 4 days or whatever it was is first and third platoon just getting contact, boom, IEDs blowing up. The airborne guys that flew in, Third Striker stacking bodies. So many bodies that after day 2 or 3, they were asking, is there a way that we can start picking some of these bodies up because they're starting to stink? And we're over here going, this ain't fair.
You got the wrong road.
Yeah, I'm like, we want to see some action, and yeah, we ended up pretty much, I think for a day they stopped us and we just sat there. Didn't even clear anymore. And I just remember that being just a super high to a super low, like, oh man, like, am I ever gonna get my combat action badge? Like,
I came this far. I'd like to at least get that.
Something, So unfortunately, like, obviously, all seriousness, that was a big time mission. They did they cleared out a lot of area that they needed to, got rid of a lot of bad people. But in the process, I think they lost a couple of EOD techs that were Air Force on that mission. So that was obviously very, very sad to hear that, no matter what, you don't want to hear it. You're just like, I mean, overall, I think third and first have to do their thing. And we just basically were like, all right, why are we even here? Like, let's go back to the FOB and then start.
Hey, you guys need any help over there?
Yeah, exactly. So, it was really cool to like be a part of something big like that, even though we didn't do anything, just because we knew the scale of it. It was a big deal for them to do what they were doing, to start to kind of be able to branch out and let these guys know, like, hey, like, we're here. We ain't messing around no more.
I ask a few of the guys this. What is your thought on, and you don't have to get into it in detail. What is your feeling on the withdrawal from Afghanistan after all the work you put in?
Well, I've been very, very vocal about it. I feel like a lot of other guys do. I think it's one of the most shameful and disrespectful things that our government could have ever done to us as combat veterans. We were told for years and years and years, you guys are going to go here to basically eliminate and kill these guys and do whatever you need to do here so they don't come back here. It's horrible. It's absolutely horrifying to see some of the videos of the desperation of the Afghan people that got, I mean, they're throwing babies into barbed wire at the airport to try to save their children. Like, they're that scared. And the whole thing was just so botched. And to leave all that equipment behind, and just, I mean, like, cool. Now we just funded terrorists for the rest of their lives. Like, they have everything that they need now to do whatever they want. And then not only that, but even after the whole pullout, we started negotiating with terrorists. What are we doing? Like, why do we go there? I know I need to go there as a service to maybe try to protect and free the people of Afghanistan from these tyrants that are just absolutely brutalizing their people. But it made you kind of question, like, was it worth a lot of our lives for them
Yep.
just to completely, within 9 days, just reverse everything that we spent 13, however many years that we've been there, including Canadians and everybody else before us? It was
Yeah.
just a huge slap in the face. And I've lost some really good relationships over it with some of friends and some family members that just don't get it. They just don't understand because they've never served. They've never been in combat. They don't, and they'll never understand. There's no way. They only watch the news and that's what they believe. That's it.
Yeah. Bill Meyer told me when I interviewed him,
Mm-hmm.
he told me that a couple years after we left Ramadi, it fell again. I didn't know that, or I did and I forgot.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that kind of hits you right in the gut.
It does. I mean, because you think of all how things were when we left, and then it's like now all these people they're in such jeopardy now. The civilians, interpreters that we work with every day,
Mm-hmm.
contractors, their families are being drugged in the streets and freaking murdered now. I've never seen the news ever talk about that. But if you go on the on the dark sides of the web, there's all kinds of proof of it. Poorly planned and absolutely poorly executed, and it's just a huge slap in all of our faces. And
All right, Joe. I know you kind of mentioned a couple times why you're so passionate about the withdrawal and the things that have happened, and I'd like to get into a little bit about your brother Donnie. You know what? I'm just gonna let you get into the story.
typical day in Afghanistan, we're on mission, just kind of rolling around. And I remember, typically I was up in the gunner's hatch on the 50, but I was down below. I think we were in a crow truck that day. Um, and I can't remember who was driving, but Sergeant Dilly was the TC that day with me. So he's on his Blue Force tracker doing his thing. And I think Wing was with me as well. He was in there, Sergeant Wing. And we're just kind of cruising around. And, typical Dilly, he's always joking around, making goofball things that he does because he's a funny dude.
He
And
is a funny
he's
dude.
kind of like out loud on our intercom, he's like reading out Blue Force tracker. He goes, something, something, something. He goes, why, yes, it is, blah, blah, blah. And he kind of made some jokes, but then he got real quiet and he just stopped talking. And I was kind of like, that was kind of weird, like, all right, didn't think much about it. And then the rest of the mission, he was just dead silent. And I had a weird feeling. I'm like, okay, what's going on? And then it was like, we get close to, I think it was Spurringar, and he goes, hey, Nichols, when we get there, get your rifle and you're going to go with Ranky. And I'm like, well, what's going on, Sarge? And he's like, just get your rifle and go with Ranky when we get there. So we get there, get all our kit off, start getting kind of settled in the fob. And we go to the talk and they were like, are you Specialist Nichols? And I'm like, yeah, yep. And they're like, okay. You need to go up to the top and take a phone call. And I'm thinking like, oh shit. You're like, that's not good. Like, what'd I do? Did I post something online? Did I say something wrong on Skype that
Yeah.
violated OPSEC? There's a million things that are going through your head. Like, why, what do you mean I'm taking a phone call? And I think at that time, I don't know if Ranky knew, maybe he did, but he was on my hip. I mean, as soon as we got there, he was like on me. He knew. So I think he did know something was going on. And all I remember is, man, to get up to where their phone is, you have to walk up this hill, and it is like climbing a mountain. I mean, it took forever to get up there. I just remember like getting up there being like, whew, all right, what's going on? And then here's these Canadians, and they come over and they're like, it's your mom. And I'm like, what? It's my mom. And obviously I get on the phone. I'm like, Mom? And she's like, Joe. And I'm like, what's going on? And she's like, she just starts sobbing. And I'm just like, okay, so it's something happened to somebody at home. Is it my dad? Is it a cousin, an aunt? Like, what's going
Mm.
on? And then she just said, like, the worst thing ever is, they got your brother. And I just, I stood there. I just remember being like, what do you mean? And she said, we just got the call that your brother is killed. He's dead. And I just remember looking at Ranky, and I knew in that moment he saw probably a flashback of Shannon instantly, and he broke down like just as much as I did, and grabbed me and hugged me, took my rifle from me, and it was just like that. It was like, oh, like like this is not real. This cannot be real. Like, this has got to be. It's April, and that's the first thing I'm like. I was just like, you got to be joking me, right? It's April. Like, this is not funny. And it's you're trying to like tell yourself that this can't be. It's got to be an April Fool's joke or something, because we just talked on Skype 2 days ago, and it was
Yeah.
a typical, how you doing, bro? How you doing? Just doing stuff, just working, because you can't really. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, you can't talk about what you're doing anyways.
Right.
And in my mind, I always had this, him being a scout sniper. I never thought that he'd be rolling around in a MRAP, in an MATV. And I let her go, and Ranky immediately grabbed my rifle from me and just kind of followed me down the hill, and I kind of sat down by where the helo lands, and then Sergeant Dilly come out, and we kind of had a moment too, and then Wing, and then some of the guys were kind of off on the right side with all the trucks, and they were all kind of like, what's going on? You could just tell. And I was just sitting there by myself. And I was just like, and where Spurnagar is, you look over the valley and you could see all of like RC North, and that's where my brother was. So I could see over
Mm.
the river and just see all the mountain, like see everything. And I'm just like, I just stood, I just stared. It seemed like eternity. I didn't know what else to do. I just kind of just sat there, and I'm just like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what the next move is. And
Mm-hmm.
then they finally came and got me, and they were like, there's a Blackhawk coming to get you, and we're going to start to basically get you back to CAF. We're going to get your stuff, and then you're going to go to Bagram. And that's where my brother was stationed, is based out of Bagram. I ended up having my buddy, Specialist Perkins. He was getting ready to go on leave, so they were like, we're just going to send you home a little bit early. You're going to go with Nichols. And, of course, he's like, yeah, it's my
Yeah.
brother. I'm going, absolutely. From there, it was a whirlwind, man. I mean, to think back now, and I've never really sat around here and like thought about it, but like the coordination and how fast everything gets taken care of just blew my mind. How well everything was done and so fast. I mean, from the time I was told, it wasn't even 2 days later, I'm in Dover with my brother. It was just so, I just remember it was just so quick. Everything was so fast. They were like, this happened. We need to get this boy home now, like right away. The biggest thing for me was obviously going through everything, going to Bagram, meeting a lot of the personnel with the Red Bulls, 34th ID Infantry Division. Just like you were saying, like we were talking about earlier, with being active and stuff, like those dudes are all National Guards. That infantry battalion, I would put them against anybody that's active. Those
Well,
dudes are those dudes are elite. I mean elite as far as I'm concerned, and I'm not being biased. It's just from some of the stuff and some of the missions that those guys did while we were there, like the Battle of Doab. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. Look it up. It's crazy. I mean, they were surrounded by thousands of Al Qaeda. They got tricked into dropping a helo of like several, I think it was like 30, 40 soldiers in the middle of a valley. And then they got surrounded as soon as it left. And they basically killed everybody and got out of there and didn't take a single casualty.
hmm.
And that was my brother's unit. That is
Well,
wild. That's wild. So that's why I'm like, these
that
guys
is
are no
wild.
joke. I know there's a book that's being written by Justin Foote, my brother's lieutenant. He's a
Mm,
phenomenal human being. But anyways, so we get back to Bagram. I'm starting to meet these people, and I've been to ranch ceremonies in Afghanistan, obviously before this, before this happened, and it's not something you ever
right.
want to do. I'm sure you've been to hundreds of them. It seems like they just never end, and they're always just they're just bad. And to be going there and like having one for my brother, it was surreal. They brought me in a room. They said, we're going to go through step by step what happened on this mission and how it happened. And basically what happened is they were pushing an area in the valley where they had solid intel that there was Al Qaeda and that there was IEDs on the unimproved route. And they had a route clearance company that was shadowing them. And this is where I got a little irritated. You can understand why, being a route clearance guy. You got infantry guys and MATVs and small vehicles on unimproved dirt going over a culvert where you have intel that there's an IED. You have us big boys on hardball shadowing. Why? Doesn't make sense. So to hear that part of it just really irritated me, and I let my kind of emotions get ahead of me. And then obviously I calmed down and kind of realized in the heat of the moment, like, it's combat. It's
Well, it's a very emotional time for you, though. I mean, I'm sure they understood.
yeah. And I felt really bad, and I apologized how I acted, and because I had to look at it, I had to step back and go, if it wasn't my brother, it was going to be one of those guys then, because there's no guarantee just because you're an up armored RG-31 that you're not going to get killed.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, a bomb is a bomb. It does a
Yep.
lot of bad to the body. So from there, basically got set up, slept the night, didn't sleep at all, of course. Went to the hangar the next morning. And then a lot of his guys that were on mission with him that I knew that are from this area, JT Ketlar and a bunch of those guys, they were there. And it was very weird to see those guys, and obviously to see being the brother and then to see the guys that were with him when it happened, it broke my soul because
Yeah.
I know, remind myself that like those guys were there, they were with him. And,
Mm-hmm.
and I know from hearing like what happened, when they dismounted the culvert to see what was going on. Gordo was still in the gunner's hatch and my brother was driving, and they moved up on the culvert and it went, those guys, they saw everything. It was such a bad blast that it blew the truck in the air, flipped it over. It blew Gordo attached to the gunner out with the whole thing came out of the truck, smashed him into the ground. He had catastrophic injuries. I'm actually surprised he didn't get killed either. And then obviously with the truck, it landed upside down on fire with my brother. I had to sit there and be like, man, like seeing those guys there, I'm just like, I don't know why that came over me. That was my first thought was, man, I feel bad, but I feel really bad for these guys because they were there.
It's
They
the
had to
Brotherhood.
go, yeah, they had to go up and see that.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how, I don't know what that's like. So, um, it just it was just wild, and then obviously the casket comes around, they bring it in there, and it was really crazy to like see the C-130, and then you have all the generals. That was the biggest thing that kind of blew my mind was the amount of like really high brass that was there that were handing me coins and shaking my hand. It was like 3-star, 3-star, 4-star, 3-star, 3-star, 4-star colonels, and I'm just like, man, should you guys all really be here in this one spot?
Yeah, right. Iran just learned that.
Yeah, I'm just like, but it was just, you could tell, like, it was such a respectful thing, and very, to see them honor my brother like that, it was very, very, very humbling and very cool to see that. And then, um, in that process, I was originally told that I wasn't allowed to escort him. because technically, since I'm kin, they usually don't allow that.
Really?
Yeah. And I kind of like argued back and forth. And I'm like, I'm telling you right now, I am not leaving my brother's side until he's in the ground. And that's where some of that emotion kind of came over in that meeting. That was part of it. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to have to shoot me. There ain't no way you're going to tell me I'm not taking my brother home. And then
Yeah.
they agreed to it. And I now I know why, because part of the process when you're doing that, you have to check the casket and the body every time you stop somewhere. And that was very, very, very obviously extremely hard for me to do. And that's where I will literally be indebted to Perkins the rest of my life, because he did that for me the first couple of times. Like when we initially started, I was like, I can't do it, dude. I can't go down there. I can't, I can't, I can't deal with that.
Can't imagine the pain that you went through.
Because you don't want to see your brother like that.
No.
You don't want to see somebody that you grew up with like that way. You don't want to remember him that way.
Right.
Like for me, that whole journey, that was the most difficult thing to have to do that.
I can't even imagine, brother. I'm so sorry you had to go through any of that.
Yeah, yeah, it was brutal, but obviously, you do it, and then you get home, and then you go through the process at Dover,
Mm-hmm.
and then you start seeing the biggest eye opener is the people at Dover. I mean, that's all they do is they deal with death of soldiers, and the detail, the selflessness, the respect, the honor that they show. It doesn't matter who you are. It blew my mind. I mean, it was
Yeah.
so awesome to see, like everything that they do, the preparation. It was just amazing. And then to go from that to get home, it was wild. I remember them flying into Waterloo Airport and meeting everybody at the casket, and you start to offload. You get in the hearse, and you start to make your way back. And I have videos to this day, and there's a lot of people I've talked to. You would have thought a president died. The amount of people that showed up, like for just us just to be able to get off the plane and get back to the church in Shell Rock. I think from Waterloo all the way to Shell Rock, every inch of every road that we went, there was people. And it was not like some people, it was like thousands of people on
Wow.
all the way up. I mean,
Amazing.
it was just so insane to see that, and it made you kind of go, people do give a shit that we're over there doing this.
Yeah.
Like, thank God, that we're, not to go back in the old days, but Vietnam vets and stuff like that, they didn't get
That's
welcomed
exactly
back
what I thought.
like we did. They got spit on. They got called baby killers,
Mm-hmm.
which to me is such a disgrace.
Yeah.
They didn't get the experience, that respect that people give us when we come back, which is awesome. And
I often thank Vietnam veterans because it's them that make it so great for us. That
exactly,
made it so
100,
great for us. So
yeah,
thank you, Vietnam veterans, and all those that help us today.
100%. Yep. I, if I see a guy with a Vietnam like hat or anything, they're
Yep.
usually like an 80-year-old guy. I will talk his ear off, because I
Yeah.
just want to hear stories. I want to hear what he has to say. But yeah. So like, we get to the church, the in Shell Rock, and then obviously the next day we had the big ceremony, which was at the high school, and then that's when it got really crazy, when there's pictures out there. So you have the high school, and then there's a main road that goes in front of the high school. Somebody said there was over like 6,000 or 7,000 motorcycles or something crazy like that.
Wow.
I mean, you could feel it. You could feel the motorcycles from inside the building when it started.
Hmm.
And it was, I think and it's just a little, and it doesn't really matter. Something that was kind of cool. I saw Sons of Silence. I saw Hell's Angels, Mongols. I saw a bunch of biker gangs, and they were all there together at this thing. And a little backstory on that. The reason why they were there, because there's people like those, who, that what used to come and protest soldiers' funerals. Well, they came there, the Westboro Baptist people, and that's why all these biker gangs showed up. And
Wow,
apparently,
that's
from
pretty
what I
cool.
had heard from local PD, without PD's consent, they went and found them, and they were gone after that. Let's just say
I
they
haven't heard anything about them in a long time.
yeah. Yep. Yep. I mean, obviously it wasn't from that, but I know just from them, like they went and found them wherever they were hiding out and had a serious, probably very scary chat with them. And then they probably got in their cars and went back to Westboro because
Good for them.
they were openly on social media saying that they were coming protest my brother's funeral.
Mm.
And there was a lot of them from what I heard. There was like 30 to 40 of them that were up there. And those bikers did not let that stand. And
Amen.
I just thought that was really cool to see groups like that who you hear history wise, they don't get along to
Yeah.
be together and go do that. Um,
Yep.
that's wild to me. Like it's
That is.
wild. It's really, really wild. But that next day, it was the same thing. The whole procession all the way down to Cedar Falls, people all on the streets, just all the way down. And it was very, very cool. And I think to this day, that's why my wife and I always wanted to move back to Waverly because this is home. And,
Yeah.
the way that people treated our family when my brother passed away, it's like, this is where I want to raise my son, and that's why my brother lives here with his sons. This is when my cousin just bought a house with all their kids up here because this place really cares about people, especially
That's
veterans.
great.
That gave me a lot of peace to see that. My brother didn't just go over there and he's just another number that was in the Afghanistan war that died. Like it meant something to people and they respected it. So, yeah.
Well, thank you,
Sorry to make you,
Donnie, for your
sorry to make you
service.
cry, brother.
Jerk.
I haven't. Like I said, I don't talk about it very much.
Yeah.
I'm glad that me and you have gotten to talk about it, and I know, obviously you didn't get to go on the deployment, and that was kind of that was a big deal, I think, for not just me, but for all the guys too when it happened. I know it hurt a lot of those guys because it brings up old feelings, and I know I've gone to Shannon Field with Wing and those guys to pay my respects to him. So I know to those guys, that was kind of like another brother losing a brother. Like this sucks. Yeah, it's just wild. Like the whole thing. You don't expect that. I mean, we both talked about it before we deployed that if I die, I hope it's for a better reason than a drunk driver or me being stupid or me falling down my stairs.
Yeah.
Like if we die overseas, I died for my brothers, my sisters, and my country, and that's fine. That's okay.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
yeah, he paid the ultimate sacrifice. And that week they had my brother's unit, MATV with 4 guys hit an ID and it killed all 4 of them that very next
Mm.
week. Then the very following week, it was Bill Maher that got blown up by an ID. And that killed me on the inside because I was like, I should be back there. Later on down the road, I started realizing like it was probably for the best because,
Oh, absolutely.
like, do I really want to put that kind of strain on my family again? The potential of something happened to me, or I lose my and I just start from killing everybody because I killed my brother. I'm sure that's probably another part. Like, dude, we can't let this guy come back. He's going to murder
Yeah.
people.
Well,
So I get it.
afraid you're going to come back with a vengeance. Yeah, that
With
makes
a
sense.
vengeance. Yeah. So I might not make good decisions. So it was for the best to just keep me home, focus on myself and my family.
So
Um,
that was what my question was going to lead into. How did you feel? I mean, obviously, I'm not even going to ask you if you got PTSD. That's obvious. I mean,
yeah.
we
Yeah.
don't go through what we go through and not have PTSD, whether people admit it or not. Anyway,
Mhm. Yeah.
how did you deal with post traumatic stress once you got home?
At first, it was a lot of booze and bad decisions. That's where I
Common.
turned to. Yep. I turned to that because it would just make me numb. I'm blurry and
Mm-hmm.
drunk, so I can't think straight and I can't think about it. And then I started making bad decisions. My now wife, that we've been together for almost 16 years, I messed up our relationship. I was blaming everybody for my problems, just going down that typical down road spiral of like not dealing with basically
Yeah.
just burying everything and not owning it and not wanting to deal with it just because that's the easier way out, just burying it and with booze. I basically hit rock bottom and got cornered by a couple of my cousins. They said, dude, you got to stop. Like, I was drinking during the summer. We would go tubing, and I could drink an entire bottle of Jack Daniels and then start on another one. We weren't halfway through the float.
Mm.
And I'm like, and they're like, you're going to die. You got to stop, man. And I
Yeah.
stopped. I basically, I ended up just going, you know what? I need help. And I went to the VA, and I
Good
started
for you.
talking to, I started talking to some people. That helped a lot. Yeah. It just kind of went from there. I just made a decision ultimately was, you know, what you're doing, would your brother be proud of you right now? And that's ultimately what I had to do. I said, your brother would not be proud of what you're doing. He didn't die for you to feel sorry for yourself and start doing all this stupid stuff. Like,
He didn't die for you to kill yourself drinking.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. He wants me to live and be alive and live a good life and basically do the right things and
Yep.
have a family someday, you know, and all that stuff. And that's where, yeah, I just stopped drinking. You know, I made the conscious decision. And I know not for a lot of people, they can't do that. It's not that easy. And I'm not saying it's that easy because it's not. I mean, it can become a bad disease that you just can't kick. You just can't. And I
Mm-hmm.
get that. Some people, they start it and it gets out of control and it leads into other things. And then before you know it, we're talking about suicide or other things.
Yeah.
And I get it. I'm lucky enough that I think I had the support group around me. And then I was able to just go, I need help. Like, I got to go and talk to somebody and figure this out because this is not the right path. And this is not what my brother died for at all. He did not die for me to just go out here and kill myself, you know, or
Mm-hmm.
ruin relationships. So that was ultimately what I did. And things, obviously, they started getting a lot better. And I started getting a
Yeah.
lot happier and started to figure out how to clear my mind. And obviously, just talking about things is the biggest thing. You know, I think
Yeah.
like what we're doing here today, you know, I don't talk about my brother hardly ever. And that's when I found out about you doing this podcast. I go, maybe this is an opportunity for me to kind of like let go of some stuff that I've kind of buried for a long time, you
Yeah.
know, since
I'm ecstatic you reached out.
I had an interior motive to go, man, this is an opportunity for me to kind of let some of this go and talk about it and
Yeah.
get it out, you know, instead of holding it in and just not talking about it, you know.
And man, is it freeing, isn't it?
It is. I mean, I cry like a baby, you know, it's
You know
okay.
what?
Feels good to cry.
I did a couple nights ago. I was sitting here reading. I don't know if you saw this. I'd put a short out or a reel out, TikTok, whatever on it.
Mm-hmm.
But I was sitting here reading one of my awards,
Yep, I
and
saw that.
I was just like, "Bleh." I just started bawling,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, I'm bawling because I felt proud for a second because I'm like all these
Yeah.
named operations that I was a part of and blah blah blah. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, I should be a little bit proud that I did this stuff.
Yeah.
And then I felt guilty immediately because of guys like Donnie. You
Mm-hmm.
know, he gave the ultimate sacrifice, and I got an award. So yeah, I get you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's cool. I mean, I think I got mine sitting back there on the shelf, and
Oh
that's
yeah,
obviously
nice.
I'm a big Red Sox guy, so don't worry about it. And I
I,
got my
I
little decoration there. But yeah, I mean, I walk by that every day. You know, and my son has asked me about it. He's like, "What's all this stuff?" And I'm like, you know, your daddy served and he
yeah,
did some stuff, you know,
and he should be
and
proud.
yeah, I've done the same thing a couple of times where you look at it and you're like, you get teary eyed. You're like,
I
I did
actually did
good.
something with my life.
Yeah, I did something like I did something productive. Like I did something
Yeah,
that's heroic.
yeah, and you kids too.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's been awesome talking to you. I'm so glad we could catch up.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. Like I hope this keeps getting bigger and bigger for you.
Thank you.
Podcasts are awesome. I mean, obviously it's the first one I've ever been on, but it's good to just be able to talk, you know, and
Yeah,
be able to relate to somebody like you. You know, there's a lot of us in the world, but there's not a lot of us, and you do
right.
find it hard sometimes where you know you'll be out and people will ask you those hard questions, and you're
Mm-hmm.
like, I don't really want to talk to you about it because you're not going to get it. You're not going to
Yeah,
understand it. I don't feel like you've earned the right to hear those stories. And that's just kind of how I've always felt.
But I think it's important that we start to tell them.
Yeah, it's good for people that aren't like us to hear this and go, oh.
Yeah. Just like you said, you like to go talk to Vietnam vets and pick their brain. Yeah. It's really cool.
Yep. Absolutely.
So, Nichols, thank you for coming on, man. And it's been really hard to call you Joe throughout this thing because I've always just called you Nichols. That's what you do with your military brothers.
Yes, sir.
So thank you for coming on. I really appreciate your vulnerability. I appreciate you being willing to come on and tell people we need to talk about these things. So thanks for your time. Thanks for your stories. And it has been great talking to you, brother. So thanks again.
Absolutely, brother. Love you, buddy.
Love you too, man. Peace out. All right. That was Joe Nichols. I really appreciate Joe coming on and being willing to open up and be vulnerable the way he did tonight. He talked about his time in Afghanistan and talked about some things people can't even imagine going. Losing a brother while deployed, while sitting in the same country not far away. That's the kind of thing that sticks with a person for the rest of their life. And what really stood out to me is Joe's not trying to bury it or pretend it didn't happen. He's choosing to talk about it because he believes, like I do, that talking about it really helps. And honestly, that's what this show is about. Giving people a place to have real conversations about things we carry with us. Joe, if you're listening, brother, I appreciate you coming on and trusting this platform with part of your story. And to everybody watching or listening, if this conversation meant something to you, share it with somebody who might need to hear it today. I'm Sam Stratton, and this is Echoes Unfiltered. And until next week, real talk, raw faith, stay unfiltered, and God bless.